Hey everybody, Lazy Gardener here. It's the end of August, and if you're anything like me, you've got a lot of tomatoes. And we've been making sauce for the last month, and we're going to make a batch today and show you how I make awesome tomato sauce the Lazy Gardener way. Okay, we have a few simple ingredients, all from the garden, that we're going to use to make sauce. We have tomatoes, we have some onion, we have some garlic, we have some dried oregano. That's all that you really need. Other than that, the only thing I'm going to add is a little salt and a little olive oil. And I'm going to show you how to put it all together very easily. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you're just going to take your tomatoes, your uncut tomatoes, and you're going to wash them. You're going to take off the cores and any bad parts or anything that's rotting. And you're going to cut it up into some small pieces. It doesn't have to be that small, and in fact, you can go quite a bit larger. This is not a problem. Another thing, though, that is notable with this sauce is you are not going to take off the skins or the seeds. That is such a time-consuming process, and it is such a drag. It makes you not want to make tomato sauce. This tomato sauce, you're not going to even know they're in there. You're not going to taste it. It's going to still be a delicious, delicious sauce. Okay, so the next thing you're going to do is you're going to prepare your onions and your garlic. I like to do about one medium-sized onion per 6 or 7 quarts. So since I'm going to be doing 2 pots, or I anticipate 2 pots, I'm doing 2 onions and 2 bulbs of garlic. If it ends up with being more tomatoes, I'll just add another one for each pan I add. All right, and here's all the garlic. I grow all my own garlic. I have a series of videos all about garlic. You can check that out on my channel. Let's blend this up. Okay, so you don't want to blend it too much. Let's give it a shot. A couple of pulses. And that's it. Okay, these are ceramic lined cast iron pans, typically called Dutch ovens. This is what I like to cook it in. I highly recommend this. There are other pans, but this is what I cook in. We're just going to do this, and we're going to start out with, basically, we're just going to get a nice splash of olive oil in the bottom of each of these pans. Okay, so we put the oil in. Now we're going to turn on and do medium heat. And we're going to split the onions and garlic between the 2 pans. Okay, so we'll lower the heat a little bit, and we're just going to kind of sweat these onions for a few minutes. And then once that happens, we're going to put some oregano in. So we'll come back in a minute. Okay, so don't let them burn. If you need to, medium-low, depending on your stove. And now I'm going to take it down to low. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take about a tablespoon to 2 tablespoons of oregano. And I'm going to really just dried oregano, and I grind it up in there. And of course, if you don't grow any of this stuff yourself, store-bought stuff is fine. But if you do grow it yourself, it's very rewarding to use your own. All right, we're just going to kind of just get that sizzled up. Okay, and look how nicely that is. And if you were here, you'd smell how great that smells. And once that just gets nice and integrated, we're going to start putting the tomatoes in here. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to fill these with tomatoes. We don't have to do any mashing or de-skinning or any of that. It's very, very simple. I'm going to take care of an end step later, and I'll show you. You might want to temporarily turn the heat up again just until, not too much. Keep kind of mixing those ingredients together. If you have extra tomatoes, you can either start another pan, as I might if I have more, or you can just let this boil down a little and add more in a little bit. But that's going to lengthen the time it's going to take, because we're going to cook this very slowly. All right, you might want to let it be on medium just to bring it up to heat a little, but do not forget to bring it on low relatively quickly. And I'll just bring it on low right now for showing you. I might leave it on medium for another 2 or 3 minutes, but you just want to stir everything and get it integrated, and keep everything on low and or just a tiny bit above low if your stove needs a little help. But we're going to cook this very, very slowly, and we're going to stir it every, say, 15, maybe 20 minutes in the beginning. Okay, so it's been about 15 minutes, and we can see the tomatoes are really liquefying. I have this on just a teeny bit above low. Again, your stove may be slightly different. We're looking for a very, very, very light boil or simmer, and we're going to do this for hours. So we'll come back in an hour, or maybe a couple hours. We'll see when we maybe have some progress to show you. But you're just going to stir every 15 minutes or so. Maybe set yourself a timer. You just don't want to feel it sticking on the bottom. If you feel something is sticking on the bottom of this pan, you have a problem. And I highly suggest you get another pan, transfer the contents over, and don't do that. We've had this problem with some burning stuff on the bottom, and it's going to ruin your entire sauce. Okay, so that's one of the things. You're stirring, you're mixing the ingredients, and you're making sure it's not sticking. So it's been about an hour. I'm going to show you the sauce, but first I went into the garden and I got some more tomatoes, including this 2-pound monster. And I have enough. I'm going to start another pan, and you can see how much those went down. Okay, so it's been about 4.5 hours. You can see the sauce has gone down a lot. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to combine these into those to try and get it so they can all finish at the same time. I'm looking for this to thicken up. This is better than these. We want a substantial amount of this liquid to boil off. And then what we're going to do is you really need one of these, because that's how we're going to end up dealing with the skins and the seeds. We're going to grind them up. You're not even going to know they're in there, and you're going to get the nutritional benefit because they're good for you. By combining this one too, I also get the benefit of getting more stove space, because I'm going to show you how I can my tomato sauce. Okay, so our sauce is done here. This one is not done. You can see it's kind of much thinner, but this one's thicker. It's a bit darker red only because it almost burned. It did not, but the heat was a little higher. And the only consequence is that the sauce is a little bit redder. Now, I'm going to show you my method for canning. This is not the official method. You're supposed to pressure can. So I take no responsibility if you choose to try this way. It is much easier than pressure canning. And it is okay and acceptable because with tomato sauce, it's very acidic and it's much more prone to long-lasting storage. So what I've done here is I've gotten this big crab pot boiler here, and I've put my jars in there and I've steamed the heck out of them. And they were already clean and they'll be sanitized. And I've turned up the heat on this so that it's going to be really hot. And then when we use the immersion blender, we're just going to go straight to jarring, because once we use the immersion blender, it's going to be very, very thick. You're not going to want to cook this anymore. All right, while that's being done, we just want to have put in about 2.5 tablespoons of salt. I already did that with this pot. I'll do it with the other one just before we do the immersion blender on there. And that's going to take a minute or two, but you're going to see it's going to get a really good consistency, almost like pizza sauce. And in fact, that's one of the things we do use the sauce for making pizzas. It's a great sauce, nice, smooth, good consistency. Just takes a couple of minutes, but this will break up all the skins and the seeds. You won't even know they're in there. Like I said, they will not affect the taste, and you just have to do this just for a minute or two. Also, another thing I just didn't mention is that when we get much closer to done like we are, we can see in that orange pan in the back, you're going to want to stir every 5 or 7 minutes. You're not going to want to let it go so long. Okay, we're going to take a jar. These silicone mitts are absolutely awesome. The best methodology for it. Put that on there. Everything's been sanitized for a couple of minutes in the steam. And to do this method, you want your bottles to be absolutely screaming hot. Your sauce has to be screaming hot. Everything has to be really hot because you're bypassing the pressure canning stage. And if it's really, really hot, these bottles will seal themselves. No problem. I'm going to put another one all ready to go. I like to try and do this pretty fast and efficiently. And it's also very important to wipe the top of the bottle to make sure there's no sauce between you and your lid. You have to do that. That's crucial. And then as soon as it's ready, do that. Swap the two bottles. Cannot touch the bottle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten this down. And I use this little magnet thing. It helps me pull out the lids and the tops. So yeah, watch this. Get that. Get the lid. The lids only need to be in there for a minute or two, just to loosen the gumminess, but everything else should really be nice and hot and sterilized. Okay, so we just have to wait for our jars to seal now. It's not something we're going to sit around and watch, but if you can kind of see this one, it's indented, and this one still has like a little bump. And the jars, when they cool, they will then seal the thing. You'll hear almost an audible thunk if you're listening, and that's how you know the jars are sealed. But you definitely have to have them go down. If they don't do that, something has gone wrong in your process. You do not have properly sealed jars, and they will not last. If for some reason your jar does not seal and you don't have this little concave kind of push in at this point, you can't use that saucer. It's certainly not going to last on a shelf. You could put it in the refrigerator, or what you could do is you could put it back and you could pour it back into the saucepan, heat it up real good, heat the bottle really well, or use a pressure canning method. Maybe this method isn't really something you should use. Again, I don't recommend it. It's a use as your own risk, but I've never had a problem. In 15 years, I've never had a batch go bad, and this is the way we do it, and it works great for us. Okay, that's my video. That's how we turn tomatoes into tomato sauce and even make it shelf stable. I hope you found it useful. I hope you liked it. If you did, leave a like. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below. I have a garden tour here, that garlic playlist I talked about here, and if you want to subscribe to the channel, click here. Good luck and good gardening.